Hey everybody, Mr. Wallowitz here. How's everyone doing? Want to guide you through these Google Slides and notes about the United States' first attempt to govern themselves after declaring independence from Great Britain through the Articles of Confederation. First, as always, we have a couple of vocabulary terms. We have confederation, an organization that consists of a number of parties or groups united in an alliance or league. And we have federation, a group of states with a central government but independence in internal affairs. These are terms that will appear on a future test once we are done with our early American government unit here. First, some little background and how the Articles of Confederation set up the government of the United States. The governing body of the Articles of Confederation was the Congress of the United States. Congress had some powers given to them, but the states held most of the power in the infancy of the new nation. After declaring independence from Great Britain, the the delegates at the Continental Congress need to form a government to help guide them through how the United States would operate independently. And they thought that giving the states more power than a federal government was in the best interest of the country at that time, as they were in the process of trying to overthrow and oust a centralized federal government. So, giving more power to the states and giving less power to any type of executive, whether that should be president or king or prime minister or whatever. The main goal was to avoid using or establishing a branch of government that would establish an executive. For that reason, too, the Articles of Confederation are considered a bit weak, and it kind of goes down in history as a failed attempt at government. So, some of the reasons why the articles were weak or didn't really make a lot of sense is so the Articles of Confederation writers disliked taxation without representation. So, under the Articles of Confederation, the federal government could not tax. Taxing or collecting taxes, collecting any sort of revenue from the citizens was handed squarely on the states to determine who should be paying taxes and how to collect those taxes. That was done state by state, and they set up their way of doing it differently from each of the other 13 states. The writers disliked a large central government that had absolute power, so states didn't have to follow federal laws and treaties. Anything that was, or any type of law that was passed at a federal level by the Congress of the Confederation did not necessarily need to be followed by the states. The states held just about all of the power under the Articles of Confederation. And so when laws or I guess laws were passed by Congress, the states could either go with them or not. And there were no consequences if they did not follow the laws or go with what the federal government was trying to implement. The writers disliked having to follow British legislation, so states had their own laws, and they didn't have to follow other states' laws. Laws were a lot different going from state to state. And if New York said one thing and Virginia disagreed, well, Virginia did not have to go along with what New York was doing. They were completely separate from each other and acted as that. The writers disliked lots of power was in the hands of the king, so there's no executive branch and there's no national court system. They were fearful that the establishment of an executive, be president, prime minister, or whatever, would tried to reclaim absolute authority over the states and try to put themselves in the power to run the government. So there was no executive branch. There's no um, figure to make sure that the laws passed by the Congress were carried out. And there's no national court system to protect the rights of all citizens. The writers disliked the king could change laws at any time. So any amendment made to the Articles of Confederation required all 13 states to unanimously approve that. And as we discussed with the during our learning about the different regions, the different colonial regions in colonial America, in that the regions were very different from each other. So getting northern states and southern states to agree on things were going to be a very difficult task. And as a result, the Articles of Confederation were never amended because getting a unanimous change to it was extremely difficult. The strengths of the Articles of Confederation. I mean, for its weaknesses that the Articles did have, there were some strengths to it. The government did sign a treaty of alliance with France in 1778. Without France, the United States or the Americans may not have won the war for independence, won the Revolutionary War. Not just with France, though. Spain and Holland do help out in our push for independence. The government successfully waged a war for independence against Great Britain. The government did negotiate an end to the American Revolution in the Treaty of Paris, signed in 1783. The government granted the free inhabitants of each state all the privileges and immunities of free citizens in the several states. So as long as you were not a slave and not a woman, you were as free to do whatever you pleased. The government passed the Northwest Ordinance of 1787, which allowed Northwest territories to organize their own governments. When we say the Northwest territories, we're talking about Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, Minnesota. That was the Northwest. Why the Northwest? It just happened to be a little bit north and west of Virginia. It allowed the eventual admission to the Union of no more than 5 states and no fewer than 3, which would be on equal footing with the original states. So the 13 states would not have felt superior over these new states, and that the new 5 states, as it would turn out, making it 18 United States, that they would be on equal standing. And the Northwest Ordinance also banned slavery in the region. So there were a couple of good things that come out of the Articles of Confederation, but in the long run, it was too weak to operate fully. Some weaknesses here. Congress had no power to coin money, and each state developed its own currency. So, us being in New Jersey, and we wanted to travel for some reason to Georgia, Georgia did not have to accept New Jersey money, and we would have to have our money traded when we got to Georgia. Congress was not able to regulate interstate trade and foreign trade. That was something that they tried to do years later, but those meetings would eventually turn into the Constitutional Convention. Congress was unable to impose taxes, so you can't collect the revenue, you can't help pay for national programs. The states were the only ones who were allowed to tax and pay back any debt that they had, or to pay for whatever state programs that they were going to be running. No national court system was established to protect the rights of the people. At the end, it was left up to the states. The states were the ones making the laws, so the states were the ones who were going to be creating the court system to protect those rights. No president or executive branch existed to ensure that the law was carried out. Fearful again of somebody just declaring themselves the absolute ruler, giving themselves too much power. They were fearful that falling into what was going on with Great Britain, with a just overthrow. Amendments to the Articles of Confederation needed to be approved by every state. Like we said, it would make things very difficult to amend the Articles, to add things, to revise things in the Articles of Confederation. And as a result, because of the regional differences from state to state and region to region, an amendment to the Articles of Confederation never happened. One vote was given to each state in Congress, no matter how big or small the populations of each state. Representation in the Congress of the Confederation was done by population. However, each state only got one vote. So a state like Virginia, which was the most populated state in the country at the time, had as many votes in Congress as Delaware. The country was only a firm league of friendship, and they acted as such. The states didn't really have to get along with each other. They did not have to act in a united way. There was one thing that kept them all together, and it was the Articles of Confederation, a document that they really didn't even have to go along with. They did it because they felt it was right to be united, to at least drive towards a common goal. But in the end, they really just acted independent from one another, and so the Articles of Confederation couldn't keep everybody together. The Articles of Confederation is going to come to a very quick end. I think it's in place for less than 10 years. It's going to be challenged very quickly in the state of Massachusetts, and which will then set the stage for the United States Constitution. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure that you all complete the assignment that will follow this posting, and we will see you then. See you later. Bye.